Hello, everybody. We are here today. Well, actually, let's go back to this. We're here today to talk with the Goose team, who hail from Block, talking about turning AI prompts into scheduled workflows with Goose. So, if you've never heard of Goose and you're here just because you like Temporal and you're curious about what's going on over here, no problem. We're going to make sure that everybody who leaves here not only understands what that is, they understand what the tie is to Temporal, and they get a chance to see it in action. So, this will be a very action-packed hour, so thank you so much for joining us. I want to have our presenters go ahead and introduce themselves. So starting from the left, we have Rizal. Go ahead, Rizal.
Hey, also I realized I thought I was on mute, so if you guys heard me typing, sorry about that. But yeah, my name is Rizal Scarlett, and I'm on the open source developer relations team at Block. So we're really focused on just like helping people adopt and understand how to use different open source products that we have, like Goose. That's it.
Very cool. How about Max?
Hello, I'm Max. I'm a senior software engineer at Block, and in the last couple of months on the Goose team. I wouldn't say we represent the full Goose team. We're just a small slice, but yeah, we're making some future improvements for everyone building open source AI here.
Very nice. Josh.
Joshua Smith. I'm a solution architect at Temporal, and I support Block, and this is really cool. That's what I'll say.
Very nice. All right, I just found my admit button, so sorry about people that were in the waiting room. I figured out where that is now. We'll get you all in. Welcome to this session. We're talking Goose with the Goose team and great folks from Temporal. We're just in the intros right now. Cornelia, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Cornelia Davis. I'm a dev advocate here at Temporal, and doing all sorts of AI things, playing with all sorts of AI tools. That's why I use all of them because, well, that's what I do is play with tech and write about tech and talk about tech. And so great. It's a great gig.
Very cool. And last but not least, I'm Angie. I head up our developer advocacy and community team here at Temporal. I normally have a nice setup with a mic and some screens, but I'm currently on vacation at my mom's house in Minnesota. So I have one tiny laptop screen to try to pilot this thing. So if you could be patient with my things, that would be great. But anyway, welcome everybody. Super excited to be here. I'll be your MC for today. So. Okay. An agenda here. We're going to cover what is Goose, what are recipes, foreshadowing, along with a demo, and then we'll talk about how Goose uses Temporal. This is kind of a recent thing with the two projects working together, and it's very exciting, and that's really what we're very excited to share with you and talk about. And then at the end, we're going to have some time for Q&A. But in the meantime, please go ahead and is there a Q&A box? There is. So the best thing to do is if you click the little Q&A box and ask your questions there, because that makes sure that they get seen. But I'll be all over the chat and the participants list and stuff. And we'll make sure that we'll try to ask as many questions as we can. Cornelia and Josh will also be asking questions on your behalf and on their behalf. And whatever we don't get to, we'll go ahead and send it on to folks to answer async, and we'll get it posted to our forum after. So. All right, let's head into it. What is Goose? I'm gonna stop the share and pass it over to you, Rizal.
Okay, y'all, let's jump into it and just giving people a heads up if you listen to me and you're like, this is super beginner. Like, that's my goal. And Max will go for the more advanced section of all of this. But today we're going to be cooking with Goose, or we're going to learn how. And for folks who don't know what Goose is, its longer name is Codename Goose, and it's an open source AI agent that's local to your machine, and it follows the MCP standard. So taking it back a little bit, if you're not familiar with AI agent, maybe you're not on social media and hearing everybody talk about it. AI agents are software that work on your behalf. So unlike systems like ChatGPT, which answer questions for you and generate text or code, an AI agent can basically execute tasks for you on your behalf. So it'll write the applications for you. So for example, maybe if you ask ChatGPT, can you help me with some code? You still have to copy and paste that code, organize it into the right folders, debug it, commit it, and push it to GitHub and then deploy it. But with Goose, I've literally asked it to write code, debug all the errors, push it to GitHub, and then deploy it to Netlify for me. Just giving you an idea. You might also say, what a silly name, Goose. for a technical product. The name is based on movie Top Gun. So there's two characters there, Maverick and his co-pilot Goose. So you can think of yourself as the Maverick and Goose as your co-pilot. And Goose was actually made internally for us. Our company functionalized. So I don't know if people know, but Block is made up of like Cash App, Square, Afterpay, Tidal, all these random companies. And the idea was that like we're gonna all like band together rather than working as separate companies. And we wanted to make the processes easier for our engineering team. So we made Goose, and we were like, this is so good that we need to open source this. And we were also like, this is so good that we need to bring this to the entire company. So not only is it open source, but people in our company, as far as our CEO, Jack Dorsey, uses Goose. Like he uses Goose to contribute to Goose, and then executive assistants even use Goose to automate tasks that they have, not necessarily like development tasks, but anything that they have that's repetitive. So some standout features about Goose is that it follows model context protocol. So you can plug in MCP servers, and I'll talk about that really briefly. We allow you to bring your own LLM, and we use something called recipes. Again, foreshadowing. So when I say MCP, if you're not familiar with it, Model Context Protocol, that's an open source standard. And it's basically a rule that companies like Anthropic and Block came together and they were like, let's make it easier to build AI agents. So in the Goose ecosystem, we refer to these MCP servers as extensions. And it's essentially just software that brings in additional context to your AI agent. So you don't have to copy and paste like ChatGPT. You can basically say, like, hey, I'm using this Google Doc MCP server or Google Drive MCP server. Go to that particular file, edit the file for me, delete the file, write a comment, whatever you want. And it makes the experience so much easier. You can also bring your own LLM. Choose your fighter, whether you want to use, I think we talked about like Grok versus Grok. Do you want to use those? You can use those with Goose. My particular preference is I like to use Claude Sonnet 4. In the screenshot here, it's 3.5. That was that was before Claude 4 came out. Now that Claude 4 came out, that's my favorite. And I often use it with Open Router or Databricks, and I just think it's really great that I have that flexibility. Again, this is just a screenshot of the different ones that I may use. Sometimes I use GPT-4o or O1, etc. You can even mix and match your models. So if you wanted a more performant model, like Claude 4 to be your lead, you can, and then you can have like a smaller worker like Qwen 3 to do the other task, and this can help you to like save money and CPU and all of that. Now, the thing that I'm here to talk about, the other standout feature, there's many standout features, but I mean, I'm biased. But the other one that I actually care to talk about today is recipes. And these are like reusable, shareable workflows. And one of the biggest problems with AI tools is repeatability, right? You can have a great prompt once, and then you're like, oh, I can't recreate the results later, or I can't share it with someone else, because AI is non-deterministic, right? You can't really control the output that it's going to give you. But we've created recipes that way you can kind of have control over that a little bit more. It packages up your prompt, the tools you use, the context, the different steps, and you can save it and share it as a URL or a YAML file or a JSON file. And that makes your entire workflow entirely portable and reproducible. So let me see. I've seen stuff in the chat, but okay.
Yeah, so Cornelia has a hand up and had a question for you about this.
Yeah.
My first question actually is around the extensions. So you mentioned that MCP servers are extensions to Goose. Are there other ways to extend Goose, or is MCP the way to extend Goose?
I would consider this the way to extend
Okay,
Goose. So
that's
yeah,
super
I'll
cool.
show people. I don't know. I can't see my screen. Are you guys seeing Goose right now on my
We're
screen?
seeing settings.
Okay, cool. This is Goose. So
Yeah,
if I
yeah.
go to the settings portion, I have so many extensions. A lot of these are like block specific, but I have one to do Playwright or GitHub or Notebook, Linear. Like literally you can like plug into so much. So this is the way to extend Goose's capabilities.
And every single one of those are MCP servers.
Yeah, every single one.
Awesome. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, thanks. All right. So what I want to do is we're gonna first off we're gonna pray to the demo gods because when I'm by myself using Goose, it's going splendid, and then every time I demo, it's not. So let's make sure this is goes really well. But what we're gonna do first is we're gonna try out a recipe. So let me tell y'all a little bit of context before we run this recipe, right? So I used Goose to basically make a UI that reacts to my facial expressions. This uses computer vision, even though I don't know anything about computer vision. And I'm gonna show you guys it really quickly before we go back to the recipe. Here we go. And if you guys want to try it out on your own too. Thank you for praying to the demo gods, Josh. Appreciate it. Okay, so I can like start my camera. It should start my Mac camera. So the angle's kind of weird, sorry. But what it's gonna do, it can be able to basically recognize my face and recognize the emotions I have. So it's like, okay, neutral, surprise, whatever. But if I make a crazier face, the UI should react, but I need to make a more crazy face. Hold on. Maybe if I look this way. It's not doing it. Let's see. Oh, chaotic mode. That's why. I skipped the step. There we go. I was like, that's weird. It's usually reacting. Okay. All right. So basically, when you've seen that I'm like happy or have a neutral face or an angry face, it should turn red. Or basically just reacts to anything that I do, as you all can see, right? So that's not the cool part that I'm really trying to show you. I'm just setting it up to show you what I initially made. But let's imagine a world where an investor, obviously this is in my dreams, they're like, oh my God, even though this is like a crappy basic app, we loved it so much. Here's $1 billion and you can make it a real startup. So like any startup, I'm gonna like over engineer the entire thing. And instead of this being like an HTML5 canvas with JavaScript, I'm now deciding, okay, I'm gonna add in like Redis and Docker and Prometheus and just make it really crazy. But I can't afford a senior engineering team, right? I can only bring in a few juniors. That's all I can really afford. I'm like, y'all could take a couple a little bit of money until I get up there with my money. And they need as most juniors would. I remember being really junior and even still now, when I join a new project, I need help ramping up. I'm like, how do I do this? I don't really know how to like set up my local environment. It could take some time. And you might feel that pressure of going from like local environment to making your first PR very quickly. I usually, when I join a team, I want to do it fast. I don't want them to think like I'm kind of slow. But in this case, I'm a busy CTO. So I can't be sitting down hand holding people. And this is where recipes can come in. I built an onboarding recipe that will set up their local environment, ask them what feature they want to build, generate the task, write the tickets for them as well. So like, let's say they're like, okay,
Hey, Rizal, sorry to interrupt just real quick. Are you meaning to show us something different than Webcam Studio right now?
oh no, I'm going to show you guys it.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I did not mean to interrupt. Keep going.
No,
Okay.
I'm gonna tell you. Yeah, I'm just laying it out that's what I'm gonna show you. Sorry if I'm taking long. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and just do that then. That way it don't take as long. But basically, what I'm gonna do to find the recipe that I've already created, think of this like a little cooking show. I pull out my already pre-baked cupcakes, and you'll see more details from Max when he joins or when he speaks. But basically, I have this new engineering onboarding recipe. I'm gonna click use recipe, and it popped up on my other screen. So I'm going to drag it over. And it already has a prompt written into it. Like I did not type this. It's the initial prompt that I want my junior engineers to do. And they're going to say, run this app using Docker. Once running the app, open it in the browser. That way they don't have to worry about setting up Docker or installing any dependencies. So let's let that run. And while it's running, we're going to notice that Goose is basically going to talk back and forth to the LLM. So I chose Claude 4 Sonnet. It's going to talk back and forth and give us the results. So, okay, for some reason it hasn't found the file or the directory. So it's going to try again to find it. And it's going to look at like some of my .m files and stuff like that. While that's running, if people have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
I have a question actually. You mentioned that folks from Block, everybody, not just engineers, people who work like in marketing, people who work in other places are using this. What's the most intriguing use case you've seen someone use Goose for as like a, like an actual thing?
Dang, that's a good question. Wait, Max, feel free to jump in on this because we have so many channels. Um, I don't know, like most intriguing because I'm like, I've seen them use it for like even simple things like summarizing meetings. And then I guess I've seen non-engineers decide they want to like build different dashboards to track things. But right now, the intriguing things aren't popping up in my mind, even though there are intriguing things. But it popped up. It basically ran the hold on. It basically opened up Docker for me, checked that everything was working, and then opened up the application as well. So as we can see, we have like a basically the same thing, but it might be a little bit different, right? So I added, or my junior engineer added a few features. So what we could do is we could actually play the snake game with our emotions, which might be a little bit hard to actually demo to you guys. But the idea is that if I press start game, if I like am happy, the snake will go up. If I'm make an angry face, it'll go to the left and right, whatever, right? So let's say my junior engineer says, thanks for doing this. What I want to add to this is I actually want to add or persist game logging. Now, basically, if I win the game or I lose the game, we're logging that, but we're not saving it anywhere. And the junior engineer wants to implement that, but we don't necessarily want them to vibe code it irresponsibly, and we want to guide them in the right direction. So what we'll have Goose do, if we type this in, is it's going to go ahead and create 3 GitHub issues with detail for it, and then once that happens, this demo is over. So let's
Wow.
go
Yay,
see.
that's cool. Hey,
Yeah.
Roselle, one question from the chat is, would you
Yeah.
be able to pop open a recipe and show what it looks like the raw format of a recipe?
Yes, I can. I can. Let me see if I can do that right now. And Max will be showing you more recipes, so it might even be easier on his side. But here's one issue it already created for me. It kind of told me what files are there and what I need to do. And let me see my IDE. So see if I have any recipes in there for you guys to look at. This particular one I generated with the UI, but you can we have a CLI app and we have a UI. I just use the UI for demos to make it easier for people to just visualize and look at. But recipe.emo onboarding.
I think we can only see trees. It maybe
Oh,
is on another window.
thank you.
Oh, there we go.
I thought you guys could see it. Okay, so here, this is not the exact one that I used. I'm gonna open this a little bigger.
By the way, Roselle, sorry to barge in. The recipe
Yes.
library, you have the preview there in the Goose itself now. So you can just go there and there's a preview for the recipes.
Oh, yes, true. I thought they wanted to see the YAML. That's why. Yeah, you
I
can see
think it
the.
gives you it in a readable form.
Okay, cool. I didn't know about this new feature, right? So you can see the basic instructions that we've given it here. So it basically generated itself. Basically, I had a session where I prompted it to run Docker and all of that. And instead of me having to write out the instructions on my own, I clicked make agents from this session. Oh, this
You
is a
can't,
recipe, so I
yeah,
can't do
yeah,
it
yeah,
from
you can't
here.
see it. You can't see it in the recipe window. You can't
Yeah.
make an agent from an agent.
Opening a new one. So right here, make recipe from this session. And then what it did was generate these instructions for me, like help users run containerized application using Docker and Docker Compose. And then I wrote in this initial prompt that I wanted it to say, run this app using Docker. And then you can have these particular activities pop up. So if I click this again, use recipe and drag it over, because I don't know why my computer insists on this. If I didn't want to use this particular prompt, I can go ahead and click run Docker app or check container status, and that could be the prompt to this particular I guess you can call it a mini agent. But that's the end of my demo, really. Just showing you all like how a recipe works, and Max will go in deeper to like how to build it.
Rizal, can I ask you one question in the
Yeah.
context? So when your junior developer said, "Hey, I want to add persistence," you said rather than going and actually changing the code, it's going to instead create some issues and do that in GitHub. Was all of that the guidance to make that decision to prefer creating issues over changing the code itself? Was that all encoded in the recipe itself, in the prompts that were in the recipe?
Yes, that was encoded
Ah,
in
very
the
cool.
recipe. Yeah. I was trying to show it again. But yeah, I basically have that
Yeah.
in the instructions.
Ah, very cool. Okay, thank you.
Of course.
All right. Thank you so much, Rizal. That was awesome to I never knew my emotions could be so colorful, and now I'm excited to try that demo. We'll pass it over now to Max, who is the engineer who worked on the feature that added temporal to Goose. And I understand you got all kinds of chaos for us to check out. Is that correct?
Well, first of all, this is also going to go live. Basically no prep. I asked Goose to come up with some ideas for recipes, which are good on a schedule, but that's about it. That's all we have, and we're just going to roll with it. So let's start with the use case. The recipes are a powerful function, but there are a lot of customers who are like, I want to do this every day, right? I want to have, I don't know, Goose go and check my Snowflake queries every day and give me a list of customers which have complaints or something, right? Or like a lot of different stuff. They don't want it to run it every day by themselves. They want it to happen. So I was like, okay, let's start to do this. And initially, I built the scheduler very crudely, adding what was the legacy, the built-in cron, which was literally just a built-in cron into the Goose, which allows you to set up a recipe on the time, and that's it. The problem is there's no retries, there's no back off, there's no consistency, there's no waiting for tasks. There's so many features missing. And we have like a group at Block which really highly promotes Temporal and uses it for a lot of things. And keep contacting and like, hey, have you tried Temporal local? Until that point, I didn't know Temporal can be local. So what this does is actually I use the Temporal CLI, which is this local runner, local daemon, which runs on your machine, and embed it into the Goose build, and it starts it in the background for you. So essentially, if I'll go here right now, I'll show you. I have it running locally on my machine on localhost 822. Right now, as you can see, it's clear. It cleared the whole thing. No schedules, no nothing. But it is essentially a local temporal instance which runs on your machine. And I love it because it keeps Goose contained. We like to keep it contained and not have it call out to too many remote services. But it also allows it to run local commands and local apps on my machine. So I got interested, and preamble, like I'll go a bit with gun analogies, but we needed a slingshot to do a simple task of shooting a rock. But somebody gave me an assault rifle in form of temporal, and I was like, this can do the job, maybe more future features. So right now, it has a lot of features we're not using, which we're hoping to use. But right now, we're like underutilizing it. But essentially, what this is the ability to create these recipes. And by the way, yes, you can use deep links for recipes now, but that's a separate thing. Like essentially, let's say I want to do, let's start with the browse YAML files. Let's do the let's do the triage bot. And I'm going to say it's triage background job, right? We're going to say this one's going to be background. And I want to run it, daily at maybe 9 a.m. Why not? And that's going to create me my background task, which is going to schedule via Temporal every 9 a.m. And you can see it's enabled if common runs are scheduled. But, sometimes you want to run right now. So you can just Temporal again allows you to do that. And it's running in the background. This is a background task. And you will see that in Temporal, we have run. Well, the recipe is broken. The devil gods were not that happy with me, and it failed to run. But the temporal part of it worked. So the fun part here is it's broken. Let's try a different one. I can try and bring and grab. Do I have anything in downloads? YAML. Oh yeah, I have this fun thingy. So this is approve PR. And essentially, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say this is a foreground task. And for YAML, it requires the YAML to be specific. For deep link, it figures it out itself. And again, I'm going to do daily schedule, but you can do any cron you want because Temporal allows. You can also change it later, weekly, monthly, every, whatever. But I'm going to run it now. And this foreground task will spawn a new agent window and start doing stuff in it. So you can actually see what's it doing. It's not doing it in the shadows. You get the agent pop up for you and automatically start doing something. So sometimes you want the visibility or the output back. And as you can see, it's literally running the prompt and it's checking and it's doing the tools, searching the extensions. And by the way, yes, Goose can enable its own extensions if it has them in the list. So right now, it searched the extensions like, I have these and that extensions. I might enable this guy. And I have GitHub. I can do this. So it's going to run it. I'm going to stop this. Well, you know what? Let it run. I need to approve those PRs anyway. So it's going to run in the foreground. But essentially, I can always pause them, run them, treat them. And right now, it is simply using Temporal as a nice scheduler with retries and backoffs. But in the future, I see the future where there could be workflows depending on one another. It could be a huge workflow in Temporal when one Goose instance spawns multiple agents who just do job, wait for one another, make decisions because Temporal supports it. Right now, it's still a dream, but it's happening. I can see there's a question about workflow updates. So this one is interesting. For the foreground tasks, actually, it broke recently. And you can see that it's still running, but it doesn't see the running status here. And I need to fix it. And I still don't know why it broke. But essentially, what it does is when a session is running, Goose is writing to a session file, which is you can read here. As you can see, you can always read the session for this run. And what essentially happens is I monitor the changes to that file. And if they stop for 10-ish seconds, I consider the run finished. And I also check with Temporal. So I can always see if the job in Temporal is running and if it's done or not. But it's a bit broken for the foreground tasks. For the background, it's a bit easier because the background spawns a CLI version of Goose, which I can literally just see if the process ended, which is much simpler. It just waits until the process exits. But yeah, this needs a bit of fixing. It always needs a bit of fixing. This is the life of an open source project. Something always needs to be fixed, and something doesn't work. But this is all cool and nice. And okay, I don't want to write all that. I am lazy. I usually am lazy. So you know what? Hey Goose, can you please write me a recipe that checks all the GitHub PRs, which I should be reviewing today, maybe rate them by importance, and give me a list, and schedule it probably every morning at 9:15 a.m. And yes, you probably saw me use Super Whisper there because it's really good. But we have built-in dictation in Goose, courtesy, surprisingly, of Jack Dorsey himself. Recently, he was annoyed and he added it. So we do have dictation built into Goose as long as you have an API key. But I like my voice to stay local, so I'm using Super Whisper for Mac with local model, so it doesn't actually go to a provider. It's preference. Anyway, so what's going to happen here? Goose actually has full control of the extensions, and it has access to the scheduler interface too. And essentially, what's going to do is it's going to write a recipe and create a schedule for me. And I don't need to do anything. So let me go. It's starting to write a recipe. It might make mistakes. Yeah, it already made mistakes in the format. It's so hard. They always forget the format a lot. It's a complex format. Let me stop it here so it doesn't break the demo. You messed up the format. Look for spec for recipe spec in, and I'm gonna do development / Goose perception. That's another project, but I have a spec there, which is very easy. And yeah, I stopped it just because I didn't want to waste their time on useless attempts. But it's gonna go and look for the project I mentioned, and there's a recipe spec in it. And it's going to find the project, and there's a file in it, which is going to read to understand the correct syntax for recipes. I know it's silly that Goose doesn't know the syntax for its own recipes. It kind of does, but it always makes mistakes. And it's still work in progress, depending on the model. So it's going to read the spec, probably. No, it doesn't. It reads a different file. Whatever. It's going to figure it out while it's doing it. Any questions?
Yeah, there's a ton of questions, actually. Once again, and I'm sorry, Rakesh, I somehow marked your question as answered, but wasn't actually answered. Could you pop open just a sample recipe file so we can click into the YAML so we can see what a recipe?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. While it's doing this, so there you go. This is a GitHub review recipe. And essentially, it's quite simple until you got this one's broken. Sorry, this one. Let's go this one. So this is an interactive one, and it's a usual version, title, author. Description is just for human readability. So instructions is kind of a main. Sorry, I clicked through a different button. Yeah. So instructions is basically the actual meat of the instructions, and there's also a prompt, which is the initial prompt. And here, in this case, Goose created a very expensive prompt, a lot of text in it, but small instruction set. So sometimes you need to see which recipe works better with a thick instruction set and thin prompt, and vice versa. Some things are better just explaining what it is. Here's for senior DevOps engineer, and the prompt is very, 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 very detailed. And also activities are your blobs which pop up on the screen for you. And when you start the Goose window, again, this is a foreground task. And extensions. This is a format of how you configure extensions. This one's using the developer and the memory. Also, it allows you for dynamic parameters inputs. So right now, I can say this is my param, which needs to be an input when I run the recipe, with type it is and whatever. And then I can embed those parameters into my prompts and recipes with the usual curly brackets like this, as you can see. If something true, or just pure paste this string or whatnot, names, files, dates, all that. So it can do a lot. And this is not the final form of the recipe. I'm not keeping up with my team because there's already structured outputs coming out where it says the output of this recipe should be in this format. It could be a JSON, it could be a YAML. That's already coming. Already you can select a model and a provider specifically for this recipe, and it will try to use them if it's enabled. So instead of using the one you default to, you can say this recipe runs with a thinking model, and this recipe needs a very simple, silly local model. like, you can specify. So this is not comprehensive. I am already behind in learning what recipes can do because, well, I'm not alone doing this. So there's people adding stuff. So there we go. It found the spec. It looked at them, and it is scheduling it for me as a background recipe, and it successfully created it. So I don't know what the recipe is. I didn't write it. I did not schedule it. And there it is. It's called agent created whatever because it's agent created. And it never ran. I have no idea what it's going to do. And I'm just going to run it because let's see.
Excited.
I didn't do anything here. So yeah, this is totally hands off. Sorry. It's like, okay. And yeah, this is a background task. So the running job is really easy to pick up if it's running. Because the process is still running. But let me see what it wrote. What's the actual? I think this is the one. Yeah, this is the one it wrote. Daily PR review. It's using developer extension. GitHub username. Okay, good morning. Let me check all the blah, blah, blah. And it's going to do medium score. Yeah, it should do something. But this should have probably been a foreground task. Right now, this is a background, so I really don't know the results of it. But they will come here, and as you can see, it's running live, and you can see that it's doing all of their tool calls, looking for the PRs, analyzing. Again, this is reiterating. I just gave it one command. I gave it one command to do this, right? I didn't ask it to refine it or save it as a report or something. So it's probably just going to output it into the back into the recipe. It's like into the run itself. There we go. But in a perfect world, I would probably tell it to create me a report and pop it up in a Chrome window or some text editor. And this is one of the things which we played around here. But yeah, basically, I didn't do anything. It wrote a recipe, chose the tools, scheduled it, set it up, didn't do anything, didn't need to do anything. Now this thing's going to run every day and prioritize my PRs for me. So now I'm going to go and tell, this is all nice, but since this is a background recipe, I don't see the output. Let's add to the recipe that at the end, it should generate a simple HTML report file and then open it in a new window in my Chrome. So it's going to update the recipe and do all that. And
So Max, quick question. While that's going, you used the term activity earlier, and
yes.
I got the impression that we've overloaded that word in this context. So there is something called an activity in Goose. For those people who are here that know Temporal, you know that we also have activities, but I think those are two different things. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah, they
Yeah.
have no relation. It's an overloaded term. And I don't really like the word activity because those are basically default actions. More of like, but I don't
Okay.
know. I'm not the one choosing names. I don't know a better name too. Suggestions appreciated. But for now, it says activities, which is, again, not sure.
The
By
hardest
the way,
problem in computer science, right?
yes, naming things. Yes.
That
And
actually gets to one of the audience questions too, which is, so for temporal activities under the hood. So we've seen Goose generate a temporal workflow and seen the UI of the workflow kind of working away. What is happening under the hood there? Like, does each activity in YAML correspond to an activity in temporal? It sounds like not, but like
no.
how is that all wired up?
Okay, so essentially right now, it is, as I said, we need a slingshot. We got an assault rifle here. So essentially what happened is it's very simple. What this does is there's one activity in it, which runs a Goose CLI or front end with the recipe specified and with the params. That's it. That's all it does right now. So essentially, there's a temporal service wrapper I wrote in Go, so Goose can connect. And essentially, what happens is it runs a Goose CLI command, which is Goose run -- recipe, path to the recipe, and that's it. And it just does it on schedule. Literally, that's all there it is. It is not very smart yet, but again, this feature was only built by me alone. So it's like, it takes time. I have an actual job beside this to do, an actual project. This is only a side feature, one-off, many of my side projects. So, I just try to fix things I feel are better for me or others. Okay, so now let's see what it did. It rewrote it, it opened, and it updated it. Did it update the schedule? Yes. Now I need to update the schedule, blah, 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 tools, background. Okay, let's see if it created a new one or updated it. Seems like it did update it. So let's run the new one and see if it's going to pop us an actual report. You can see that it's, again, there was a refresh here, which refreshed this automatically every couple of seconds, but it annoyed people. So now I have to click through manually for it to refresh. The only thing that refreshes is actually the state here. So we can wait for it to run. While it's doing this, all of these fun ideas of reports and whatnot were actually taken for a project which I did and I'm still doing with one of my colleagues called Goose Perception, which is a bit crazy. It's in a crazier side of things. But essentially what this is a fully autonomous agent, which is always on your machine. And it listens to your mic. It looks at you through your camera. It takes screenshots of your workspace. It monitors file changes and apps you're doing. And it allows it to build reports, suggest improvements, and essentially, yeah, and it has a Goose Clippy running on your machine like this, which does stuff. And essentially, I recently have a PR to move all of this insanity to the scheduler via Temporal. And we can basically test to running it. Let's do CD development, Goose Perception. So this is also utilizing all this stuff. And we're just going to just run. And it's going to start this heavy thing because it has a lot of AI built into it, several local models. Okay, so it failed to generate a report because of some interesting output. Oh, no, it's still running, I think. Let's see. Yeah, this is still running. Anyway, oh no. Yeah, I think I know what happened. That's on me. And let's wait. That update message you've seen, this error, is actually me messing things up because when I ran Goose Perception, it actually cleaned my queue. It's a bug there. It cleaned all of my recipes, and it's going to put all of the recipes it needs in. So it's going to take it probably 10 to 15 minutes to do the whole. No, actually faster. You can see it's adding one by one, and we can see that it creates all of the recipes needed for this thing to run.
So, question real quick. Will Temporal automatically restart that workflow that crashed out because you started Perception? Or will you need to...
I think it should. Let's see what it did. Actually, I'm curious if it's failed or it's still running, actually. Is it? Manual triage, complete, approve. I think this is the agent created. It's still running. Didn't fail. So I think it should be fine still. And let's see. There we go. This is my Goose. This is my Goosey. And he's here. It's going to take some time to start. Again, this is a research project. It is very much unoptimized. It is very much laggy, but it is fun to do. And this is the Goosey, which lives on your desktop always, unless it crashes. Where'd it go? Did it crash? No. It's listening to me right now. Where's my avatar? Where are you? It hid. Well done. I have to restart the thing. So that thing is just, a recipe-based thing, which monitors you, looks at you, and provides you all of these essentially reports for you, creates PRs for you, and it comments. As a result stated, it did a comment on her PR without her knowing. It's a work in progress. It eats tokens for breakfast. You should not run it if you can't afford it. I burned 11 grand on it in a month. So it is very expensive because it's unoptimized. This is a research project, again, for autonomous agent interactions. But it is so amazing because, for
Okay,
instance,
but basically you have Clippy that spies on everything you do and everything
and
goes
does actual
through
stuff.
you. Okay,
Yes,
that's
essentially, it actually does stuff for you, and
And
it has
costs you a
actual.
lot of money.
Yes,
very
right now it costs
cool.
you a ridiculous amount of money, which is not fun, not sustainable. This is why it's still a research project. Yeah, essentially, I like that. If Clippy was a helicopter mount, yes. And also, there's like all kinds of funny stuff with the avatar, which is let it start, the camera started. Yeah, the initial run is really hard. You can see it's looking at my emotions using the camera, and what it saw I'm neutral. So it's calibrating all the time, and you can see I can actually choose a lot of different personalities for it. I live for the sarcastic goose, and you can always, run report. Like basically, this is run now stuff for many things. But yeah, this thing is running on the same backend here. So you will see that there's like all of these screenshot capture workflow, which runs right now. And yes, it's gonna burn me again. And yes, as you can see, it's gonna tell me that I am a failure, which is not too far from reality. I'm not gonna run it for long right now, but because it's gonna eat all of my tokens and money. But yeah, this is one of the cool projects which are possible having scheduler and AI built in together because it can schedule its own. Oh yeah, by the way, it can create its own recipes and add them to the list of schedules. Like if it sees that this is something useful. So
Yeah.
this thing is basically a supercharged version of the scheduler built in because it does it on its own. It is expensive right now because it's still a research project, but it's the future. Just your computer doing stuff for you and scheduling things. On the flip side, I'm also working on this like very crude app, which is a list schedules. I was not sure if I'm going to show it today because it's like 2 hours in the development, but it is essentially a task queue for Goose where I can add tasks and it can add tasks. As you can see, it's very crude right now. And essentially what happens is the background loop checks if there's any tasks to run, and it's going to do run tasks. And you can see it's doing some stuff. It did something or failed to do something. And essentially, this is your assistant to-do list. Imagine if your to-do list would do your tasks for you. This is the goal of building this. A to-do list would actually fixes things and then follows up with you if it can't.
Wow.
Again, very raw, work in progress, again, built on the same scheduler and temporal. So as you can see, this is like evolving as you see. And yeah, I'd say this is the end of the demo as is. And it was as chaotic as I expected.
That's
Yes,
amazing. Yep,
it was amazing.
that was very chaotic, but that was like I feel like I just leapt 100 years into the future in like 15 minutes. That was crazy. Um, we have a couple of like really deep dive questions. So first of all, just want to say that that last thing you showed, the task queue that you and the bot share, the to-do list that does its own to-dos, that's also powered by Temporal, you were saying, because it's built on the same scheduler system. Is that correct?
Essentially, it is powered by Goose, which uses Temporal as the background
Got
for
it.
this.
Okay.
Yes. So you can schedule the task using Temporal, and you can also just set it immediate. Essentially, here right now, you can see that all of these currently running. There's no new tasks. And I can say blah, whatever, my description, blah, and I can say this is an urgent thing. I want to run it immediate, or I want to recur it on. And again, this is not fixed yet. It's just asking for a cron instead of asking me for text description of what I want. But you can schedule it for time, and essentially, you can also use a recipe here, so it can be the same thing as the scheduler, but you can also like freehand it here in the description. And as you can see, it has retries and everything, and it goes through the same scheduler system in Goose. It's just a different UI and a consistent check for if there's new tasks to do. So like I like the scheduler in Goose as is, but it is rigid in a way that it's only the tasks you scheduled for the time, right? But I wanted a more fluid one where it can be like, I want this immediately, you pick it up next thing, and I don't need to schedule. It's a one time, and I wanted to pick it up next when it's done with the previous task, right? So it can be achieved with a workflow in Temporal, but I would need to change the workflow all the time. And this is like more independent setup. But yeah, it's all, work in progress.
Oh. Let's hit a kind of a more technical question here. So going back to the earlier thing where you had done something else on your local, it had killed the existing Goose that had been running on your local, right? And that situation caused the regeneration of the report in HTML to fail. So the question is, it looks like scheduled task works only if the local environment is up at the scheduled time, unless there is a way to run Goose outside of local. So on a related note, can Goose be configured against temporal cloud instead of local temporal? And are there any pros or cons to that?
Okay, so these are all good questions. Yes. First of all, initially I built this to be fully local, no remote, and it only runs if your local daemon is running. However, the local temporal CLI, probably Josh can answer this better, it can catch up on failed tasks if you want. There's like this catch up feature. If basically your laptop was sleeping during that time, you open it, all the tasks it skipped it can do or not, depending if you want that to happen. I'll probably let Josh explain how that works in Temporal, but it will catch up in my setup. So all of the tasks it had to run, it will run. But yes, speaking of a remote Temporal, I was thinking about it. But the problem is your Goose is local, right? In current state, it is local. So even if you have a running Temporal somewhere, but your machine is sleeping, it's going to ping to nothing. There's nothing to ping. Your machine is sleeping. So there's no use for that use case unless it's running in a cloud. And Goose is not running in a cloud. It's a local agent. So I don't see a point for it yet. Maybe we'll have a cloud instance, or if you can basically, the better solution would be, since Goose has a CLI version, spin it on a server and have that server not go to sleep. And then you have your cloud Temporal and cloud Goose. Maybe for that reason, we might want to add a URL to a cloud Temporal instance.
Okay.
Can
We
I
have a bunch of
interject with
questions.
a
You can,
super
but
quick question
I want
on
to
that
just
local thing?
one
Okay,
second.
yeah.
We have a time thing where this whole thing is gonna wrap in 4 minutes. So I just want to see, Rizal and Max, are you able to stay a few more minutes and just answer a few more questions?
Oh, yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, Cornelia, proceed.
Okay, so my first question is around this topic of local, which brought me back to the question I was asking you earlier, Rizal, around the MCP servers. Are the MCP servers running local as well, or are those remote sometimes?
They can be. So, I
Okay.
mean, Max, feel free to add in.
Yeah.
You can decide to connect to a remote MCP server or a local one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So MCP supports both, and we support both SSE and local. Most of ours are local agents, which run locally and then call to the service needed. But I've built some fully remote ones. Like this one is, I've been playing. I've built an RPG which is powered by Goose, where AI is actually running the NPCs, so they're all smart. But I needed Goose to have the ability to query the game and see the state of the game world. So this is an SSC one, which is fully remote, and it's fine. It's working. So you can do both.
Amazing. Here's the other big technical question. So, a gap that someone has found when testing out Goose was that recipes weren't as deterministic as they had hoped. It currently seems like recipes are a pre-prompt for the chat, pre-configured buttons that automatically send a prompt to the chat, a list of MCP tools that the chat can use to fulfill user prompts. Are there plans to allow more deterministic shareable recipes now that we have a temporal server running locally and which can run workflows?
Amazing question. And this is what my sub team is specifically working on. Yes, more repeatable, more reliable recipes v2. And for the future to come, features that are currently being implemented and tested. Structured outputs. So the recipe will always output something in a format you describe. with a recipe. Very useful. Two, we are trying to build something like built-in retries into the recipes themselves. And three, we are trying to build in something like verification. So you could probably say in the recipe, to verify this command, you need to this recipe success, you need to run whatever shell tool or this script, which bundles with it. And essentially, it would make sure that the recipe passed or failed before like finishing. It's still gonna be, wasting tokens probably, because LLMs, you can't fully control how LLM answer. But again, it will be able to check if it did the task what you asked, if it passed or didn't, and try again until it did, or max retries finished. So we are working on it. It is a big deal. We're trying to fine tune. One big suggestion I can have is the more descriptive are the instructions and the prompt in your um, recipe, the better it will recreate things. If you lay out the steps it needs to do and the tools it needs to use one by one, like a 5-year-old child would need to read it, it will work more and more repeatable. If you just say, hey, go check GitHub and I don't know, write me a cool game, well, sorry, LLMs will do whatever with that. So the more precise your recipe is, the better. But yes, we are working on making them more and more reliable.
That's awesome. Josh, you yourself had asked a couple of questions. You want to take the mic for a second?
Yeah, sure. Really great question and or really great answer from Rizzle, but I wanted to get Max's answer. How much of Goose has been made with Goose?
Well, I've been working with Goose since pre-version 1, and I've been only writing Goose with Goose. But I'm maybe the outlier. I would say about half or more of Goose was made with Goose. But again, what would you describe made with Goose? Is it literally I didn't check what the AI did and it just fully wrote it, or it assisted me writing the base of it, and then we refine the things? So the AI coding is a whole separate stream to talk about how you approach it and whatnot. But yeah, Goose is heavily used to write Goose.
Yeah, I've heard rumors of Goose, and now I've been playing with it and seeing it, and it's added a lot of features really fast. And I feel like Goose and AI in general has sped up its development, I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
Yes.
Okay.
It wouldn't be that fast without Goose itself.
Yeah, that's so cool. And then my second question was, have you thought about building MCP servers as temporal workflows? I've seen some people doing that, and that puts reliability on the other side of the tool call. And I wondered if Block had been doing that.
Tell me more. Let's chat later.
Let's chat later.
Yeah, we have not. We have not.
Okay.
I wanna hear this one. This is interesting.
Okay. There's also a question in chat that may be related, which I'll just keep the mic and ask. If Temporal created an MCP that is able to transform a user's query into a YAML DSL or a recipe, how could Goose play there? Does that question make any sense?
Well, I mean, essentially, if it's an MCP, Goose can talk to it, right? So this would just be encapsulating that recipe functionality into Temporal. I don't know how you're going to do this because you don't have the AI runner, which will read those recipes. So you'd have to couple more tightly with something. But it makes more sense to couple the AI with the workflow engine more than the workflow engine with the specific AI. But again, you can choose to do that too. This is all a field of exploration, and we all do a lot of new and crazy stuff that people think is unreasonable.
Yeah, we've been just on our side, we've been playing with MCP tools that are agents that can also do things. So you use something like Goose to call MCP, which calls something that acts with its own intelligence. Anyway, we'll talk later. I'll try not to nerd out too much.
I mean, we're here to nerd out, friend. So if you want to, Could you do a tweet size summary to like catch the rest of us up on like why this is so exciting and what the possibilities are?
Yeah, so right now, Goose is awesome because it gives you the power of AI and durability and scheduling that we saw today. And what trying to keep it quick, I'm saying is if instead of calling an MCP tool that updates a PR or you know, updates a Google Doc, if on the other side of that MCP call was also an agent that had its own intelligence that could intelligently do other things, other problem solving. So it might break your brain a little bit, but what if Goose was intelligently talking to you and your tools were intelligently doing their work sort of independently?
Yeah, we kind of experimented with some of this. We're
Yeah.
building something called sub agents, but it doesn't use.
Yes.
Yeah, this is literally sub agents, yes, result, but it doesn't use temporal for that, which I am not clear why, because I showed how it can be done. We had a couple, like couple of interesting interactions about that, and some
Yeah.
even drag and drop workflow builders using that as the backbone. But essentially, this is more agent to agent than MCP.
Yeah.
There's like this A2A protocol, which we're looking into, which is more, interesting. But yeah, there's like more, there's so many ways to do all of these things.
Mhm.
And the question is if we're going to use something or collaborate more. And yeah, just if you sell more people on it in my team and I can help you with that, that's just awesome. We can just collaborate more.
I was mostly curious what you had done, and it sounds like you've explored it, which is really cool.
There's a lot of people who explored it. Yeah, we have like many competing implementations of things.
All right. We have a few more questions, like 4 more minutes, and then we'll wrap. Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much for folks that are sticking on. What's the best local model to use with Goose?
So I would probably say depends on your machine what you can run, but probably Quen 3. Yeah, as Rizal said. If you can run the biggest Quen 3 you can, that would probably be best. I was very, very disappointed with the Llama, the latest Llama. I hoped it was good. They were hyping it up, but it's terrible at tool calls. It's absolutely atrocious. It just can't. It is smart to talk to, but like to be an agent, it can't. I highly recommend instead of doing that for Goose, just use the Gemini API because it's free. Yes, it's rate limited, but at least it's free. And Gemini is like reasonably good with tool calling and everything.
Okay, awesome. And there was one up here. Sorry, I gotta find it. It had a couple of +1s on it. Shoot. I think it was from Anton. If you're on the call still, you could just unmute. Something about can you add a pre-flight check or something like that to a recipe?
Depends on what pre-flight check means. So you can do a post soon. Pre, we didn't think about it yet. No, maybe a good idea to have.
I found the question. Yeah, it's can you also add a pre-flight check to the recipe, basically ensuring that all prereqs in the environment are correct?
That would be a good idea. That is actually a really good suggestion. I will definitely pop that idea to the team.
And I apologize. It was Saxon Hunt who asked that question. Doing my best on my very tiny screen. All right. If I didn't ask your question live and you still have questions, please go ahead and ask them here. Otherwise, I'm going to pop back over to the deck for 1 second just for some closing stuff. I cannot thank you both enough for coming and spending time with us and going over and showing us all this like sci-fi stuff. Like that was really, really cool. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. That was really fun. And, it's just well, I guess this is the state of the world, and many people just don't realize that this is actually the state of the world. This is where we are.
Yeah, it's amazing when you've been coding for a while to see how this is like it's very different than what we used to do. It's just like wow. And that's where everything's going. All right, 2 more questions. What is the smallest open weights model from your experience that is able to do structured output and function calling reliably? This is kind of a
Okay, I'll probably leave this one to Rizal because I rarely use the local models, I'll be honest, because I'm mostly focused on pushing the envelope, and local models are not great at it. So I'm using the state of the art all the time. So Rizal.
Yeah, I think I feel similarly. The local models, they just haven't been like the ideal experience. Whenever someone asks me about a local or open source model, I often suggest Qwen 3. I put the two blog posts in there. But we basically did some benchmarking, and the best experiences we've been getting with Goose have been like Claude Sonnet. And what we did do is like you could add something called like tool shims to a lot of the local or open source models, and that kind of gives those open source models like tool calling capabilities, but it's still a little bit slow. Another strategy could be I slightly mentioned it in the slides, but not very well, is you use a lead worker type of model. Basically you'll have like Claude 4 or something very performant as your lead, and that does like a lot of the harder task, and then you can put Qwen or a smaller like open local type of model as the worker, and that way it'll save you some coins. Yeah, hopefully that helped.
That's smart. I like that. And one more local model question, and we'll wrap. Which is, how many params for Qwen would you recommend at minimum?
I think I've seen people use 14B and 30B.
Okay.
Yeah, I think anything below that is just not gonna cut it for being an agent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it kind of
Thank
like
you,
answers
y'all.
questions. Oh, good. Oh, hey, ALR.
Hey now, thanks, man.
Hey, welcome to the club. ALR, you're at block 2, is that right?
Oh yeah.
I am. I work in our open source programs with these fine folks, and always wondering what I can do to bring stuff in locally. And what you're saying is buy more hardware. I gotcha.
There you go. So live, we're getting procurement done. Like, this has been a community live session that's really gone to all lengths and processes and stuff. Anyway, that's awesome. Well, ALR, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been great.
Thank you for hosting. Great job, y'all.
All right, so I have slides to wrap, but I don't know where they are. So I'm just going to say you should join both of our respective communities. We have a Slack on the temporal slide, t.mp/Slack. And then the Goose folks have a Discord because they're much more modern and cool than us. No, I'm just kidding. So they have a Discord that you can join at Rizal. What's the URL for that?
It's discord.gg/block open source. I'm typing it right now for people.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and if you like what you see, head to block.github.io/goose, and you can download this, play around with it. I don't think that cool sci-fi stuff with the voice activated, monitor your whole life, charge you $11,000 thing is on there yet, but
Yeah, that's a separate project. You can
that's a
find it on
separate
GitHub,
project.
but that's on your own risk.
Okay,
This is like
fair
a
enough. Yeah,
very
there's
risky
lots of
thing to
things.
run.
But anyway, cool. Thank you so much. Okay, so this was awesome. We will take the recording of this, the chat, the AI summary, all that, and post it to our forum. I'll send it to the blog post as well, so you can distribute it out to your community. But Max and Rizal, cannot thank you enough for all the awesome time that you spent showing us this bleeding edge stuff. And it's so cool to see Temporal used in a very unique way, because it's like, it's very cool that you picked our assault rifle. So thank you for choosing our assault rifle of all the assault rifles that you had the choice of. No, that's awesome. Anyway, thank you so much. We'll have you again soon to talk more about some of this future reaching stuff. Maybe have you on for a webinar or something, and let's continue to collaborate because I think there's a lot here that is great for both projects. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Everyone. Bye-bye.